Good morning. Good morning. We are live. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. We are live. We're excited to be here. All right. All right. I hope you had an amazing day yesterday. And I'm so happy you are here live with me. We are a few minutes late, but know that anytime you don't see me, maybe prayer took a little longer than usual. But we are here nonetheless. I welcome you to this page. Share the broadcast with someone. Share it on your social media page. Let someone know that we have gone live. There may be people that are following us, but for whatever reason, maybe they don't catch the live in time. Also, I want you to hit the notification bell so that every time I go live, you will be able to see me go live. So this morning, we want to talk about building trust in marriage. Also, if you have not downloaded my free guide to assessing your triggers, coming up or determining what your triggers are, please download it. We will link it at the bottom of this page as well, since I announced it on this live. So we'll put it at the bottom of this page. All right. So I want you to share it with someone, like, comments. All right. So that this can reach someone that it needs to reach. Okay. The Lord bless you. All right. So yesterday we're not very long, and today will be the same. I want to jump right in and talk about how to build trust. Building trust in marriage is a gradual process, and it requires you to have consistent effort. It requires you to have open communication, and also be committed to the process. A lot of people, they want trust in the marriage, but they're not willing to do the work. So I do want to point that out, that it's going to take work. It's going to take you to be consistent in your efforts to build that trust. It's going to take you to be committed to the effort. And so here are a few things that you can do to build trust in your marriage. And there are times that you are working on yourself and your spouse is not working on themselves. I can imagine how difficult that can be. But I don't want you to lose courage. All right. If you're new to my page, you know that although I'm talking about marriage to couples, my focus has always been frustrated wives. And I talk to frustrated wives a lot. And I feel frustrated wives need support, simply because a lot of times the men in the relationship never feels like there is, they need to go to counseling, therapy, coaching, and you might say that's a very general statement. Yes, it seems to me like always women that are concerned, always women. And when we're talking about the woman of faith, this is a Christian woman who got married. She loved the man. She saw potential. She got married, and the man never brought himself up to that level where he lived after God's heart, or who lived according to the principles the scriptures teach, of self-control, of the fruit of the spirit, follow Christ, every word that is spoken in the word. And so I appeal and I speak to the frustrated wives, because I want them to see that although they may have made a choice that may not necessarily have been what God had said, or maybe it was what God said, but the men never really made the effort to come up to that level that God intended. Because, God can give a gift and you can refuse it. So God can, come to a man, speak to a man, encourage a man, and the man might be like, I'm not ready, and not take the steps to really walk according to the calling that God has for them. So that can bring frustration in your marriage. And it's hard to trust a spouse because you're like, you're not even doing what you're supposed to do. So it's hard to build trust, that spiritual intimacy with your spouse. So I'm going to give you a few keys that will help you, perhaps 5 or 6 keys that can help you to build trust in a relationship, or even rebuild trust after infidelity or after anything like that. Communication is key. We know that. I talk a lot about communication because communication is needed in every relationship, especially when it comes to marriage. It is a must. All right. You need to have open, honest, and transparent communication. One of the tenets that I teach here: love, intimacy, and transparency. Transparency speaks to communication, the way you relate to your spouse, the way, the verbal and the nonverbal cues when it comes to communication. And most people don't know how to communicate. Let's be honest, okay? Most people don't know how to communicate, but communication is a skill and it must be learned, all right? So when you're communicating, you need to be open, you need to be honest, and you really need to be transparent. Transparency is important because you are opening your heart, you're laying down your flaws, you're being real, you're not faking it for your spouse. You're showing to your spouse that, look, this is where I am, this is where I want to be. I want things to improve. Maybe I'm not there yet, but this is where I want to be. You're being open with your spouse. You're being honest with how you feel. That is crucial, guys. When you're transparent, you share your thoughts, you share your feelings, with your partner, you share your concern. A lot of communication is not transparent because people fake it. Are you okay? I'm fine. That's not transparent. If you're not fine, say you're not fine, and then explain why you're not fine. Not in blaming, not in criticism, not in stonewalling, not in silent treatment, but say why you are not fine. That's transparent communication. You need to be reliable. See, one of the things that makes children lack trust as they grow, a lot of people, they were raised in a way that makes it hard for them to trust people. Because when they needed their family was not there. When they needed friends were not there. When they needed their boyfriends, their girlfriends, they were not there. So they grow up with this concept thinking, my caretakers did not, I didn't grow trust because they did not take care of me. They didn't show up. When I needed a bottle, they didn't give me a bottle. When I needed a hug, they didn't give me a hug. So you grow kind of like always seeking some kind of love and attention. So those people with abandonment issues, they don't trust, all right? When you suffer from abandonment, you don't know how to trust people. And you don't trust because there's no reliability. People in your life failed you, betrayed you. Then you don't trust anybody. When you need things to be done, nobody does it. So you learned not to trust people. So even though it's not your fault that you don't know how to trust, when you get married, it is your responsibility to learn to trust. All right. But in so doing, you need somebody who is reliable. So you need to consistently keep your promises as a spouse. A lot of people don't keep their promises. When you don't keep your promises, you fail your spouse. So you tell your spouse, I'm going to show up at 6. It may seem very meager, like very insignificant, but if you show up at 7, they think to themselves, I got ready at 6 and you didn't come. So they feel like you don't care about their needs. Does that make sense? So you must be reliable as a spouse when it comes to building trust. All right. Reliability gives you a sense of security. Okay. It gives you security that, okay, I can trust my spouse to be there for me. Like maybe emotionally, I'm a little down. I can trust my spouse to express care and love and empathy, because maybe it's not your fault, but I'm not feeling well because of work. Can I trust my spouse to, it's okay, it's work, it will pass, Can I emotionally depend on you That's what we're talking about, reliability. Reliability speaks to dependability. Are you dependable enough for me to trust you? Okay? So we're talking about building trust. Share the broadcast with someone, please. Share it. Let them know we are on. I'm giving you tips on how you can rebuild trust. All right? Or build trust in marriage, period. You have to also establish clear boundaries in your marriage. A lot of marriages started off very wrong. So there's no boundaries. There's no, a lot of inappropriate behaviors, but people have learned to just kind of go along with it. But clear boundaries in relationships actually protect you. All right. So how do you set boundaries? Boundaries speak to expectations, misunderstandings. How do you resolve conflict? That's what boundaries are. All right. Because what it does is it messes up trust. The way you handle conflict will mess up your trust. The way you deal with misunderstandings, it will mess up your trust. So you have to set clear boundaries and expectations on how on boundaries, so that you are able to, in your marriage, build trust. All right. So if you're having an argument, for example, you have to be able to trust your spouse, that your spouse is not going to be so upset that they will throw glass, like they will start throwing things at you. How can you trust somebody that throws things? You can't trust them. You're like, what? So you're shocked. How can you trust your spouse not to hate you when they're upset? Guys, share the broadcast with someone. How can I trust you that you're having difficulty managing your anger? How could I trust you that you won't hit me when you're angry? So a lot of spouses, they may not say it, but they're scared. They're afraid of their spouse. Like, the way you get angry, the way you act, I don't know if you can hit me, So it makes the spouse not trust you because you can't manage your emotions. So when you can't manage your emotions, I'm talking about boundaries, right? Boundaries is being able to manage your emotions, being able to, fight fair. There's a way to fight fair and not just say, blame the person, and start throwing things at them. There are people that throw things when they get upset. You make your spouse afraid. You might say to yourself, but I'm not abusive. I don't abuse you. I've never hit you. Yes, but I don't know when you're going to hit me. Does that make sense? I don't know when you're going to hit me. So as a spouse, you sit there and you're like, I don't know. So that's what I mean by establishing boundaries. Here's the next thing I want to talk about. When it comes to trust, apologize and forgive. Everybody makes mistakes. You have to learn to apologize and forgive. So when something is wrong, say sorry. The way you develop trust, the way I can trust that you are okay, you are correct, and I can feel secure in a marriage is by my spouse being able to apologize. Hey, I am sorry for what I said. I didn't mean to say that. Hey, I'm sorry for what I did. A lot of spouses would cheat on their spouse and they won't say sorry. They might initially say sorry because they got caught, but they will not say sorry otherwise. So they're sorry they got caught. They're not sorry that they cheated. And the way you see that they're not sorry they cheated is that either they go back and cheat, or they tell you, don't ask me about it. Don't talk about the cheating. If you cheat, for the spouse to trust you, they need reassurance from you that you're not going to cheat again. There's some spouse who say, I can't promise you that I'm not, you want me to promise you, I can't promise you. No, it is your responsibility to establish trust in that marriage. Because remember, you broke the trust by cheating. So it is your job. Yes, it's your job to report yourself. Hey, I'm going to the store. Hey, I'm off work. Hey, it's your job to report yourself. Because remember, all along, they trusted that you were at work, you were home, all along, they trusted you. You broke the trust. So you may have to do a little bit more. Okay? So your job is to apologize and make sure you are transparent. And their job is to forgive. When you hold on to grudges, hold on to the cheating, hold on to the lies, hold on to the, eventually you're going to be worn out. Eventually you'll be worn out. You'll be like, this is not what I signed up for. You're going to constantly be looking around like, is this person cheating again? Is this person lying to me? You won't trust anything they say. All right. You need to be transparent, especially if you're a partner who likes to hide things. There's some partners that don't like to be asked what they're doing, where they're at. You know, they feel like you don't trust me, so I'm not going to tell you where I'm going. As a partner, it is your job. You're going somewhere, you tell your spouse, hey, I'm going here. Hey, I'm doing this. Hey, I'm doing that. It's your job. Don't look at your spouse and say it's your job, your spouse's job to do anything. No, it's your job. It's your responsibility. So you have to be transparent, all right? Because you broke down the trust. You have to be transparent. One more thing I'm going to give you maybe. For your spouse to trust you, you need to have empathy. Empathy. You need empathy. What empathy does is to understand your partner's feelings. Whenever there's conflict, you know, when you have empathy, when you show empathy, you're saying, I understand what you are saying. Like, you're just saying, I can feel what you're saying. Because here's the thing. You go to your spouse, you're like, look, what you did, I really did not like. What you said was not right. I didn't expect that. And they're like, well, I said what I said. I meant what I said. And no empathy whatsoever. Your spouse comes to you and your spouse says, that thing you said to me really hurt me. You have to be able to say, don't say, oh, I'm just playing. You playing doesn't negate the fact that you said what you said. Okay, your intent was not to hurt them, but you hurt them. You must acknowledge that you've offended them. You must acknowledge that you've hurt their feelings. That is what empathy is. Empathy is showing that spouse, is showing that individual how you feel and how painful what you said caused them or has been. So your job is to say, oh, I understand how you feel. You know, I empathize. I didn't mean to hurt you, but definitely you don't negate what they say. And that's what a lot of people do. They negate, oh, I didn't mean to say that. And I didn't, what you meant and what you said, it's not as significant. What they feel, you must acknowledge. A lot of spouses don't acknowledge what the other feels. They don't acknowledge it. They're like, so what? What do you want me to do? They don't acknowledge it. You must acknowledge how your spouse feels. All right. So this is pretty much it. Today, I just wanted to come here, talk about how to build trust. You have to be able to build trust. You know, the Bible talks about laying your trust on the Lord, right? Trust in the Lord and lean not unto thy own understanding. When it comes to trust, we trust God over man, right? Always. You trust God over man. But in a relationship, for the marriage to continue, you also need to have some kind of trust with your spouse. If you struggle to trust your spouse, basically there's no marriage there. A lot of marriages have lost the trust they once had. You know, they doubt their spouse. They feel like their spouse is lying about money, lying about their whereabouts, lying about what they're doing. And whenever you find yourself struggling with trust, it's really hard to feel secure in the marriage. Lack of trust breaks the walls of security. And so the minute you begin to feel insecure in your marriage, you feel like there's no marriage. You feel like this is not even worth it. What am I doing? You know, so you want to develop at all possible, be transparent, be honest with your spouse. Like a lot of spouses, like, I'm going to the store. Why would you ask me where I'm going? Because if you go to the store, God forbid, and you don't come back for 3-4 hours, I don't know what has happened. Anything could have happened. The world has become a very dangerous place. It's for your own security, your own safety. You've heard stories of spouses going and meeting people on Facebook. Maybe you're meeting them to buy something. You go meet the person and they stab you. You go meet somebody for business, you meet somebody for work, you meet somebody for whatever online, and something happens to you. Imagine you didn't tell your spouse, I'm going to meet somebody on Facebook. Where are we going to go find you? You understand? Just like kids. Kids go and meet random people online and they're killed. It's for your own safety. So anytime you feel like my spouse is asking me where I'm going, you can force me to tell. Okay, you have an issue. You have an issue. If you feel some type of way when your spouse asks you where you're going, you need to deal with that trauma, that issue that is bothering you. It is your job to open up and say, I'm going here, I'm going there. It is your job. And it is your spouse's job to believe what you're saying, provided you have not broken the trust. When you break the trust, it's going to take a little bit more time for your spouse to believe that what you're saying is even true. Don't be upset at that. What it tells you is you have work to do because you broke the trust in a relationship. Trust could be given. When you break it, you must earn the trust. And with that, I leave you. Have an amazing day. I will see you tomorrow as we continue to talk about relationships, marriage, and how to have a lit marriage.